Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Today, we are joined by Jocelyn Parkhurst. Jocelyn is a neurodiverse, energy and spirituality luminary, innovator in learning, and author. And she's written some really interesting books. I would really want to talk to you about that gal that was with the Pinkertons. That book that you wrote, Incognito. I may go get that to read it. I just like your description of it's like, oh, wow, that is so cool. I love history. I love stuff like that. That's just so different. So welcome to the show. We were talking beforehand.
I know. We were saying so many things. We're like, we got to start recording this. This is awesome. No, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah. This is going to be so cool. I loved hearing about your hair and how you take care of it. She's got locks, and they're gorgeous and just like so super cool. They're her Celtic knots.
That's right.
I can so relate to that. So tell us all about you, Jocelyn. How'd you get started? We're talking about, bucking the trends, and I love your neurodiverse, not neurodivergent.
That's right. I grew up down in Manhattan Beach, California, a little tiny surf town. That's what it was back then, 60 years ago. And I was a young girl that just wanted to love people and who spoke the truth. And in doing both of those, it created fear in other people. And then I felt that fear and I didn't understand it, especially as a young girl. And it also got me into positions where I was sexually abused as a child. And then, just the difficulties of just regularly, growing up and everything. I then, for whatever reason, I found myself in an abusive marriage for 13 years. I have two beautiful children from that marriage. I also have my first son that was from a previous marriage. Basically, I had him when I was 20. So I have that, growing up as a single parent and all of this, and then an abusive marriage, and then being single again. He left me for another person, which was like, thank you, I'm free, but it still killed me at the same time. It was like all these different emotions and stuff. And it took me 8 years to be able to traverse that path. And at that time, I in my early 20s, I started following Buddhism and became part of a Buddhist organization. And so, that I utilized those tools from Buddhism to really start to, understand myself more. Got into academia really because I was in this abusive marriage. And I said to myself, this is the early 90s. I have 3 kids. I'm in an abusive marriage. Where's my power? Basically, I said at that time, where's my power? And so I went back to school. At that time, I'd only had a GED. And I was just struggling. So I went back to school and I got first my associates in political science, and then my bachelor's, and then my master's, and then my PhD. And during that time, in the abusive marriage, and then out of the abusive marriage, and then raising my kids by myself. So big roller coaster of all kinds of experiences and things, and doing all of this and exploring myself, working at different colleges and universities, and then just getting into then the marriage that I had just recently. Beautiful man. I saw him differently than many other people saw him. And he had three beautiful kids. I had my kids. It was beautiful, but I was afraid to love. I was afraid. There was always this war, and he was too. We were both, these scared little kids trying to love and raise these kids together. And it was just like, we were always kind of like trying to say what we wanted, but not really, and he never talked anyways. And then my previous marriage, he always talked. And so it was kind of this refreshing thing, but then I never tried to get him to talk either. So eventually we're sitting here, and I remember this day so clearly that he is getting ready. He is, well, a few days before that, he was just been getting drunk and all this. And I said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "I want out." Just like that, and I was like, of course I knew things weren't perfect, but that just, it blew me away. And so a couple of days later, he's getting ready in his truck to go down to hang out with his sister for a couple of weeks and get some work down there. And all of a sudden, all this love just came out of me. And it's like, I knew he was going away. And it was like hitting a brick wall. And in my heart, it was like, it's too late. And so we're still traversing. That was 3 years ago, right before COVID, and that this all started happening. And then he moved out eventually. And what's beautiful is that for the most part, at the beginning, there was this creation of lies that a lot of people do in order to make the separating become easier. We traversed that pretty well, calling each other out on, no, that wasn't true. No, that wasn't true. And we were both, we actually talked more in the separating than we had during the marriage. So that was kind of nice. And we're in a really good spot where, we have our house, this house that I love, that he wants me to have, but I'm not in a position to take over the mortgage just yet. So he's been waiting to get the divorce finalized so he's been really cool. I've been cool. He's already with somebody else who is his dream thing. She's got 2 young kids. He's always wanted to be a dad like that, right? Not the part-time dad that separating had him being. And so I love where he is. I actually now have been able to release that after. It took me 3 years to be able to travel that road of, what? You're kidding me. Break everything down, tear it all, tower, you want to kick the tower out for me? Well, I'm going to tear all the rest of it down too. And then I'm going to start rebuilding me up. And so as I was going through this process and I came into this coaching and learning and loving understanding what coaching was, I was like, why don't we teach this to our kids when they're in school? It's like, I knew a lot of things from Buddhism, from having a PhD in political science and doing political psychology. I understood it. Buddhism is psychology. And then getting this from the personal development side, then having new words, being able to see it from a different direction, and being able to then, I just loved it. And I was like, I can do this, but nothing that I did landed and nothing happened. And so I just kept doing things and learning, and I'm not understanding why I was pulled in this direction and that direction until I'm getting to where I am now. And that is that even though I love, doing what I do and being who I am, and I love connecting with people, my gift is creating tools. As an academic, I created courses and programs for places like University of Phoenix. Oh, I'm spazzing out on my computer. Am I good with you, or am I spazzing out?
Oh, you're spazzing. It's totally cool.
There you go. Max headroom, right?
That was fun.
And, so anyways, yeah, it drew me. And then I started to see where I love coaches and I love teachers and I love mentors, but sometimes each of those groups kind of battle with the other ones as to who's the best and who's not right or doing it wrong. And nobody's doing it wrong. It's like just different approaches. But from me being able to have all this background in creating courses and programs, and then tools in those courses and programs. And then in my spirituality, I was a lay Buddhist leader, and I created many tools and courses and different things and fun stuff. It's all about fun. And I created simulations for these different schools to make understanding political science in a more real manner, if at all possible. And then, of course, my books, I've created card decks, I've created courses, of course, workshops, I can't even think of all the things, but I came to realize that's my joy. That's what makes me like, oh, and I can see other people's work and I can say, oh, why don't you shift this way, or maybe use a different word, or what do you mean by power, right? That's such a word used so much that we don't even understand what that word means most of the time. And then I can see it. And then what's the fun part is I'm not often seeing it in my own work, but when I get to work with somebody and I get to just like, I then take it back to my work and I can see, oh, that's where I did that in my stuff. So it all comes back to me. Every message I put out, every word I put out, every video I put out, every course, it's a early Buddhist teaching. Your environment reflects what's going on inside you. And so it's always just a good good check to come back to self when you're seeing these things in your environment. And I just love that beauty. I have to do it in bits and pieces, and that's the neurodiverse part of who I am. And I love that you said not neurodivergent. I think neurodivergent. I took it on for a moment and I said, do I really like this word? And I just felt like it was another way of the DM 678, whatever we are, saying you're just wrong. You're not normal.
And who wants to be normal anyway?
That's right. I think there's, weird and strange and all that. So that's why I say
harder to control people that aren't normal, that don't fall in with a narrow range. People that decide that they're going to just travel out in whatever path they want to be on and don't really care what's going on around them so much in terms of trying to get approbation for it. Those people are really hard to control because they're not afraid of missing out on stuff. They don't care if they miss out. They've got their own thing that they're doing, and that's always all that's important.
There's always more.
Yeah.
But it's scary, and that's excuse me. That's the thing about being neurodiverse, because I can see things from so many different perspectives, because I've had to learn how to do that. I had to learn how to do micro expression reading, right? So that I could know when I was, and then being in an abusive marriage, some physical abuse, mostly psychological and emotional, but knowing in an instant if he was, and I'm sorry about it, but if I was gonna have to, like, if I could be quiet enough and not still enough that he wasn't going to bother me, but that didn't usually work. But if I can see the micro expressions, can I be perfect today? Can I do this right today? Oh, I'm not doing it right. Maybe I should, it's it's a lot that happens. But it's again, the neurodiverse aspect of that. Just the way my eyes, I see myself, I don't look at the camera all the time. I'll be off in different places, not being able, but I can look at people in the eyes. I can do that, right? It's but in doing this, and my daughter, my middle daughter, my middle child, she was assigned male at birth. She is transgender female. And she has taught me so much, Rachel has, about accepting, and the community that she is a part of, that I've been able to interact with, is just so accepting of people just the way they are, and especially people who are neurodiverse, right? Might have several strong personalities or entities going on inside the head, and which one is going to come up, or they might be pulling in something from some, and just allowing and saying, yeah, that's cool. Who am I with today? And that has allowed me to say, first, well, who am I then, as I let go of all this stuff? And especially ideas of the duality of gender, the duality of anything. There is no real duality. We create that in our minds in order to be able to have some kind of meaning for this world. And so far, the people who create meaning for the world, I'm deciding I'm not going to buy into that anymore. So I'm like, you start to, when you give away those aspects of duality, then you start to question, okay, what is reality? What is what do I want to have as rules and structures? What do I not? And then as you go traverse that, you feel crazy, and then other people think you're crazy. And so I've had to move through this a couple of times where people seriously thought I was crazy, and then I had to stop because I thought I was crazy. But it is allowing ourselves. I think there's more and more people I'm running into who are allowing of this. And my experience with my daughter and her community has just allowed me to say, I can be whoever I want to. It's a huge letting go of her, that her experience has allowed me to experience too.
I'm just sitting here going, yep, 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 in my head. You've hit on so many things. One is how much our children teach us in this life, if we're open to it. And just because things are different for them doesn't mean that we have to have all the answers. Because it's different for them, we can learn from them if we would just like step back and let them lead instead of trying to push them, which like that's the trap most parents fall into. Ouch. I'm sorry. I have a puppy.
I was thinking it had to be a little critter.
Every now and then he just decides he must have my attention. And so he's over here trying not to bite on my fingers.
That's awesome. My daughter has dogs. She's a groomer, and she does all. So we've always had animals of one kind of another. They're awesome. They're awesome.
So
but I wanted to I'm going to take us back before I forget. I was just thinking that I had been, going to the Kate Warren book that you talked about, Incognito, that I wrote. Mm-hmm. And I started it about 10 years ago. And I would start it and stop. I would do third person, first person. I would do it from this, and I could not figure out how to approach it. And then I finally kind of got it, and then COVID hit, and I went off with it. Plus, I needed something to distract me because my husband was leaving me too. So it's like all this. So it's like I just focused in on this. I got it done. And to me, with Kate Warren, she was the first female detective for the Pinkerton Agency back in 1856. And in a lot of the other people who have written stories about her, or there's been television shows and stuff like that, they always have her enamored of Pinkerton, that she was his mistress, that she was so good at what she did, and she went on his missions with him because they were lovers. And I was like, bullshit on that. That's like, yeah, you only get good if you sleep with the boss. And I was like, there's nothing, absolutely nothing in any of the historical records that there are that even indicate that. And Pinkerton's wife actually was a former singer. And so she was free and liberal. I mean, it was like, so for me, it was like, no duh. She dressed up sometimes as a man. She wasn't really married. Now, there's no record of her actual marriage, even though it said she was married and divorced and widowed. There's nothing in there that says that. I said, duh, she's a lesbian woman. She doesn't want marriage. She doesn't want kids. She doesn't want any of that. And so it was beautiful because as I really fell into that, especially as I did my revisions and added in more of what was going on in her mind, it allowed me my own exploration of, I've always been, even though my family's open and great. I mean, I always kind of, I've always known I'm bisexual, but again, that's a duality that I'm no longer have in my life. But it's nothing I ever explored because I think there was this fear of who I was supposed to be. Get married, have kids. I mean, I wouldn't give any of it away. So, but it allowed me this questioning of who am I as a woman if I don't want kids, if I don't want to be married? Who am I if I don't want all this stuff and I'm doing? And then her anxieties, and I try to bring those out. But most of it is just asking people to let go of the boxes that they create about other people in this exploration of herself.
That's so fascinating. I know there were a lot of women that lived together. They used to call them old maids, but they really weren't. They had love relationships. And I think in this time that we're in, love looks a lot different. It's not like it has to be in this box, and you have to get married and you have to live with your spouse and you have to have your children at a certain point in your relationship. And then there's all of these blended families, which are creating a new phenomenon because people are getting better at divorce, I've noticed. they're getting better at not staying in the relationship for the kids, which just really screws the kids up. And not blaming each other, but being able to like separate and recognize the strengths and weaknesses of the union, and recognize it's just a union, and you can dissolve it. It doesn't have to be a forever thing, and it can change how it looks, and you don't have to hate the person just because you're leaving them. It's
the hardest part of it is the destruction of your dreams. Your dreams are gone. The life that you imagined going into the future, and that person was going to be there when you grow old together, and that kind of stuff. All that is the hard part. Not being able to communicate, or even just talk, get a hug. It's like those are the hard things. Those emotional, for me at least, the emotional connections, the things that I had dreamed. But at the same time, acknowledging what was real. It took me a long time. I mean, I would go back and forth. No, I'll hold on to this, and I'll keep focusing on him coming back. And it's like, no, don't be foolish. Look at the things other people are saying, some truth in there. And then I had to really look deeply at myself and understand, everything, my responsibility and the reality of his actions. Did he put me first or not? And when I answered that question, then that was this final thing. Yes, this is not the right one, because he didn't put you first. He loved you. You could see that he did, but he was, whatever it was, that. And so that just being able to say that to myself and acknowledge that, and say, there were so many signs where I could have taken a step and said, hey, this isn't what I like and I want. Let's do it. And I didn't. I just didn't say nothing. I held it in. So my responsibility is absolutely in there too. But we take that, right? And then, I did so much learning since then, because I don't want to feel that again. But I'm not interested in being in a relationship. I miss things about being in a relationship, certain things, but I don't want one just yet. I'm still kind of traveling me. I'm dating me. I did a 30 days of dating me and a 30 days of loving me and stuff on my face. And I love the 30, and I got it from Firefly Lane, a show on Netflix, I think it is. I just loved it because it brought so much out from that happens with trauma, and then following that as these women move through their lives. It's a beautiful show if you guys haven't seen it. But she was dating herself, and I was like, I'm doing that. So right now, I'm just dating me. I'm just loving me. I'm just putting me first for everything, and then see where that takes me.
It's gonna take you where you're supposed to go, because ultimately we are just one in community with others, but we exist as an individual, a soul, a spark of God, whatever you want to call it. But each of those divine bits come together, but they only come together when you recognize the divine in yourself. And you can't do that in relationship with other people and think that you're gonna figure it out. You either have to know what it is before you get in that relationship, or you have to do a lot of work, both of you, in order to grow together. It just doesn't happen very often. And this is coming from someone who's been in a really long relationship.
I completely agree. And I go back to the same thing as, I was already I was working at changing myself. I knew I was stagnant. So I was working at this, developing me. And so it's the craziest thing. It freaked me out too. I threw all these things away for it right after this happened. But I know that, as you change yourself, your environment has to change. And sometimes we don't like the way our environment changed. And my environment changed because Rick left. It wasn't the right person for me moving forward. And it was so funny because the day before, I asked him, what was going on. I had made some purifying, like waxy oil stuff that you just put like on different spots and just like, and it was like, so I did that to him, and it was like the next day, all this shit happened. I was like,
it works.
It worked. It was like, I don't know. I seriously, it freaked me out, and I threw it away. And until I've come back to that, my the way I love the way energy works, right? It's not me, it's the energy that's moving through me, and flowing through. It's like I've been trained in Reiki, but I've been doing energy healing for a long time, and it's not me, it's the person drawing the energy from through to them. They get they're the ones that do it. I just happen to be open enough from my experiences and everything that I can help with that. A lot of things I write in my little focus jars that I make, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm putting things in and I'll hold over a jar until it feels right. And then I drop it in. It's like, it's so fun and exciting, but it was scary starting out trying to just listen to my inner self, that connection to everything. Because I truly believe we're all one. We are all one thing. I can feel myself one with the universe, which has been the most awesomest. And I did not my first time was not when I was high either. It was, it was when I was straight, which is really cool because then I could understand what that feeling was. But it's scary to kind of listen to that pull. And there were many times where I would start to listen to it and things would start to happen. It would freak me out because I didn't know what was going on. I was even hospitalized one time because I was like totally like freaking out. And that's the problem with a lot of people my age, is that there's not a lot of understanding for people who think these different ways, who could have this connection. We used to think they were crazy or weird or strange, except we're just born in the wrong time. But it turns to be fascinating because now, from all my other experiences, I woke up every day dreading the day. I would be at one point I would wake up as late as I could. I would make sure I watched the right TV shows in a row to make sure my mind stayed exactly what it was. And I did all the things to make sure my kids were okay. Then everyone would go to sleep. And then I'd stay up till like 4 o'clock in the morning. I was working on my dissertation and stuff like that, but still I was, and then I'd go to sleep, wake up, actually get up, get my kids breakfast, get them off to school, then go back to bed and then get up later. So it moved through that to being able to really I could get up, and then I used tools to make me feel better, to this allowing that happened. What actually happened was, I do cards and I draw for myself, and the card said, just presence the love in your life for the next day or two. So I was doing that, and all this fear just kept coming up, fear and fear. So finally I was sitting in the backyard and I looked up at the sky and I said to the universe, yes, I fear you, but I'm going to love you anyways. And that release of saying, yeah, there's fear there, but I'm going to keep pushing through it. Every time it comes up, I'm going to let it go, do my little thing and do what it is, but I'm going to keep moving forward. It's like all of a sudden I started waiting. I was like, what is going to happen today? Because I have no clue what's going to happen each day. And it's like, so I put a thought into the world, like, how about something like this? And it's amazing how cool things come back. But it's like this, it's like waiting for the magic, right? The magic's going to happen every single day as long as we're open to it and not saying this is the way it has to happen. And then the universe has to try and structure it this way and shove it in there. And it's trying to use everything. But if we're like open to it, we say, I would love this feeling. I would love this connection. I would love to have, and there are things, I would love to have a little pool house in my backyard, and I sit there and I imagine what it would feel like to be sitting on the little deck of my little pool house in my little backyard. And then the universe says, well, I can work with this because you're not telling me exactly what I have to do. So, but the hardest part of that creation thing, and which gets to the other book that I wrote, which is a revised edition of Wallace Wattles' The Science of Getting Rich. It's the gender and spiritually neutral edition. I take out he, she's, or all the he's and stuff, and it's they mostly. And I rewrite it. I take his judgment. He gets a little judgy in places because that was the time he was in. So I took a lot of that out. I took the blatant religious things out, but left the more spiritual aspects of it in. I put key points at the beginning so people know what to focus on when they're reading. I create a summary, which also lists Wallace Wattles' argument really clearly. And then I have questions and activities that you can do to sort of anchor in the information. So I added a lot to it. And I'm really proud of that. But for me, that's like the hardest part of it's like the monetary thing. I've never cared that much about money, except when I don't have enough to be able to do like pay the bills and stuff. Then I care about it, but it's this stress and worry kind of thing. because I've never understood money, because money is not real. Money is a concept. It's an imaginative thing based on emotion. And to me, it's more real when you trade. I get this, you get that. Okay, but it's like money is this, and value. How do you decide what value is? And it's like, oh, and so this gets to like, I have created all these things, and the amount of money that I have earned in doing it is zero. After 3 years, 2.5, 3 years of doing all these things. And I'm like, I'm not mad. I'm not fearful anymore. Although I was getting really, there was a moment where I was like, is this really what I want to do? And that's when I started figuring out what I love is making tools. But it's like, I'm not going to stop. I'm just going to keep. And somehow I left academia last October, November. I haven't really worked on anything. There have been things I've tried to start that were in academia because I freaked out at the beginning of the year and said, well, can I get back in? And the universe was like, no, you said you were going to move. You're not going to do this anymore. So no, you don't get that. So then I said, through this exploration and everything, but everything had its reason. And everything has its timing. And I really understand that. And so even though I still, at this moment, all my bills are paid. I have food in my refrigerator. And it's a beautiful, gorgeous, sunny day outside. And I get to love and enjoy this day like there's not like this is the last day, because it's a gorgeous, beautiful day. And all I know is this moment right now. And so that is the beauty of this. I am trusting the universe. When I didn't trust the universe, I had to control everything. No, I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this. And then I got to make sure it's this. And I've got to plan, and I've got to have this in the bank, and I've got to, and it's like, no, now I'm just saying, if I'm going to have it, it's going to be there. I dream, I feel, I want it, but it's more in connection and emotion and who I want to be rather than what stuff do I want, if that makes sense.
Makes total sense. It makes, yes, it makes total sense. And I'm sitting here thinking, just wait. I see it coming for you. It can't help but come. I've seen it manifesting happens all the time. And I was just thinking this morning, I decided last week to start tapping for money. I periodically do this. Yesterday it was like, interesting. This money appeared. It's just like, and it happens to me every time I do that. It's like, if I start to feel like that anxiety around there's not enough, right, I just start tapping, and it really takes all of that away.
Like this kind of tapping, or
EFT. I just call it tapping. I should probably call
it.
No,
it's fine. I just want to be sure I have the right thing.
Yeah.
Not breath. Tapping the ceiling or tapping the universe. I want to be sure.
No, just doing the EFT, and then there's hypnotherapy. There's all these things that you can do that really do help change and rewire your brain, so you're not like, you don't get caught in that that pool or that tunnel where you're just like, oh God, I can't get out. I'm stuck here. It's just like, I will call it magic. It is like magic, because I don't really understand how it works, and that's all magic is. It's just
exactly,
you can't explain.
Babylon 5. I love the techno mages. It's just, you just don't understand it.
Yeah, you just don't understand it. I think that's all woo is too, but it's just people like, I'm so into the woo. Well, yeah.
I don't even know what the woo is, unless you're talking about woo commerce, but I don't think you're talking about that. So
no, woo is just magic. It's
okay.
Like all of these modalities that we use as coaches to help people move forward and get unstuck, and really to manifest the life that they want, because reality is what we create. It's what we dream of. It's the things that we think about. And I personally have had experiences where, I don't want this, I want that. I remember when I was 14 years old, we were on this long hike with my family, my sisters and my mom, who always bitched when we went hiking. It was so fun, let me tell you. And we were hiking around the hills in California, and it was gorgeous, and we could see the condors flying. And it was back in the days when the condors were going extinct, and it was really an amazing experience. And I was just thinking, and I'd lived in cities my whole life, or on bases, and we never really had our own home. And I thought, I really want to live on a homestead. I want chickens. I knew nothing about chickens. I want goats. I want cows. I want all these animals. And then my life went on. I was 14 at the time. And I continued to live in Southern California and Washington and other places in Colorado. And then we moved to Salt Lake City. And we were in this house. It was a beautiful McMansion. And I was standing in the backyard trying to figure out how to garden, because, gardening is we're not born with that instinct. And it's more than just throwing seeds on the ground, but let me tell you. So I was thinking, I don't want to live in the city. I want to live in the country. And within a year, I was in the country. I had goats and chickens, and the neighbors thought I was hilarious because I tried to clip their wings, and I had these ideas about how to keep them. They were just like 19 years later, like, oh God, I knew nothing then.
Isn't it beautiful? I got chickens. I always wanted to have like alpacas or something like that. So I finally got this house where I had some yard, and I said, I'm going to start small. I'm going to at least get chickens. Oh my God, those freaking little things are a pain in the butt. I love them all. I only have my rooster left, and I had turkeys too. My mama passed this last spring, but wow. Yeah. I'm glad I stuck with chickens and no more.
I had a llama at one point. His name was Larry the Leary Leaping Llama.
Oh, that's awesome.
He was quite the animal. It's really interesting. Llamas are.
That's another thing that teaches us so much. My turkey mama taught me so much. She taught me because she had a abscess and then infection in her foot, and I had to figure out a way to heal it. Most of the time that happens, that people just kill the bird. So in doing it, I learned a new way to envision energy as a ball and a rounding and a circling and kind of thing with her. And then I had one point, because it was so bad, I had to cut into the bottom of her foot and remove some of the abscess, the infection. And if there was, usually it happens if there's something in it, like a piece of wire or dirt or something got in there, pine cone piece. And so I had to figure out what's going on. And there was two places, and it's like, I freak out on stuff like that. So I had to I said, okay, we're just going to do it. We'll just do it. And it's like, so something happened and a flip switched, and I was able to get in there and clean it out. And I had to do it multiple times over several, and then I would wrap it with the Epsom salt water and the charcoal and honey, which pulls the infection out. But she taught me so much, and her patience with me in the process as well. I love animals. I don't know why I have my last little chicken and little rooster dude, but that's it for now, I think.
They do teach us so much. Gardening teaches us so much. This like the whole process of learning how to be country has shaped my life in interesting ways that I'm so grateful for the experience. But it was so interesting to me when I was on the homestead, thinking back to when I was 14 and I wanted chickens. Because all you have to do is dream about it. And
absolutely. I mean, that's the thing with the Buddhism, at least that I follow. I mean, that's how they hook you in first, is you chant for anything and you're going to get it. And I did, I don't chant anymore. I hum and I and I just sit, and there's so many different ways, but it goes back to the way that, different kinds of things and humming, we know, activates so many different kinds of things going on in the head. But oh my gosh, I forgot what my train of thought was on that one. Totally lost it.
Animals, humming, getting what you want.
Oh yes, that was it. Yeah. So Buddhism, but you in order to get what you want, you have to change who you. I don't want to say change who you are so much as you become clearer on who you are. At least that's what I see at the time that I'm in now. It's like, we talk about karma. I love Sadhguru. And I mean, of course, I've understood karma for a long time, and I was already shifting what I understood about karma at this point, because I was leaving the organization I was in, because I didn't believe that they were doing it the way that it just wasn't being done the way that resonated with who I am after 30 odd years of being with them. And so I left all that. And the way he explained karma, and then my own ideas, karma isn't what happens to you. Karma is how you get through it. The whole universe of possibilities is open to you, because the universe doesn't know, with all these different energies, what it's got to pull in next. It's not the event that is the karma. It's how we get even. I mean, having a child die. I've had a friend, and it's like, how do you explain that? And you can't. All you can say at the time, you can't even say you will eventually find the good in this. All you can do is console them. You can't throw bullshit at them like that. But
it doesn't help.
No, but at the same time saying it was your karma, that doesn't help either, So it's like, no, these are hard lessons I learned over time of doing these exact things. It's, saying this to somebody, it's like, oh yeah, that wasn't right. But it's like, I love, because I still get angry, I still get sad, but I will go and I will, like, if a song is going on, I've done this a few times, and I'm in the middle of a store, I will start dancing. That's my karma but I will get really angry at certain other things. That's my karma too. And so it's allowing myself to understand myself more as I feel these emotions, and definitely not saying they're bad. I love every emotion of who I am. I love my conflict. This is something new that happened only recently with the last couple of, are we okay?
No, we're having animal problems.
Oh dear.
Bear with me for just a minute.
Okay.
All right, animal drama's over. Shove them out of the room. All right, back to karma.
Yes. So we were talking about it in the, all the possibility, and it's not what happens, it's what, and I have, we all have aspects of ourselves that we're, even though I've been doing this for decades, and I have these shifts and all this, I still get angry and I get sad and I get this, but the understanding is there. When it hits me, I can say now, okay, this is an emotion. I don't have to get angry back at this person unless something inside me is saying you need to be angry. I always follow that intuition. And so that's why I always say, I'm not always nice. I'm not always pretty. I'm not always what you want, but it might be what you need. But I'm always asking myself, do I really need to do that? Do I really need to say that? Or why? And then always, no matter what, I go back into the reflection of why did I get angry? And I don't always have to understand the why too. If it's like, I don't know why, okay, maybe this is something I don't need to dig deep into right this second. I can just go through I see you. I love you. Thank you for having been there. I no longer need you. I release you into the universe. And, that step process is just me acknowledging and loving that emotion had been there, and then saying, but, I don't need you. I don't take myself so seriously anymore. And so I can release this into the universe. But, there's always more dandelion roots. So.
Dandelions are good for you.
Yes, they are.
Of them.
And I love it all. And that's what I was saying, is that the conflict aspect, what's been going on around the world, and seeing people very angry and taking sides, and, there's no side to this. There's just people in pain that don't have any other tools to use to do something else. And every, this is my PhD, every conflict or war has its roots in the previous conflict or war. All the other stuff is just bullshit in order to say why we have to do this. And policymakers have their own agenda for why they encapsulate or take a side or state it the way they do. There's always looking deeper into it. But when I looked at this and I saw this and I said, we can't policy make peace. It won't happen. We've seen that. We have to have a change in people, and people only act out when they're not willing to look in. Even with me getting angry, that first act of acting out often is because I'm not quite yet willing to look at it within my own self yet. And so by looking at that and writing out a few things and looking at this, that I said, I got to love that conflict within me with a couple of things that I've been dealing with, where I would love to work with this person, but, you know, I have this little tiny bit of baggage that comes with it, that there's this conflict in me. I love the whole conflict. I just love it all. And as soon as because I said, you've got to love that conflict, you know, where it is, and love all the people, love the conflict for what it is. Not, it sucks, obviously, not that I want all this to happen, but I love the people, I love the land, I love the earth. That all is me too. Now, how can we look at this? How can we dig deeper? So I said, well, first we've got to do that within ourselves. So I had to say, okay, where's my conflict? How do I love this? How do I look deeper within this? And then to me, it was just like this aha, and another like little layer of something that got flung off of, that was dirty or holding me down, or a chain link of freedom, when I could say, I know I can love that. I don't have to resolve all that conflict in this moment. I can just love it right now. And the resolution will happen as it's meant to happen. And so to me, that is also our environment. You know, how are we looking at our environment to understand who we are? And because we're all in this together, this whole earth is our spaceship. It's the only one we got right now. And so we need to figure out how we're going to take care of it and all the people on it.
Absolutely. When it comes to actually helping people with creating tools, how do they get in touch with you, and how does that happen?
Yeah, so when I work with people on creating tools, and this comes from my course creation and all that kind of stuff that I have experience with, it really depends on the person, because each individual is different. They have their difficulties in different things. Like one person, it might be their words they use, and I can help them clarify their words. What do you really mean by this? What is this, you know, definition? How would you use this? How might the person that's receiving your words get it? It might be different from you in what you're trying to say. It could be one of my pet peeves about self-education is the lack of assessments and lack of investment in the outcome of the people taking the courses. And so how do you know your learners are learning what you want them to learn, unless you're doing some kind of an assessment? It doesn't have to be fill in the box kind of assessment. It can be fun. There's a lot of different ways to do assessments. But unless we're invested, that's the difference often between a teacher and a content creator, is the investment in the outcome of the people who are your learners and what they're learning. And so, you know, that is another thing that I can help with. I've created assessments, all kinds of different kinds of assessments. And I've created, like I said, simulations, which is just role playing. How do we create what might be a role play? Maybe it's a different way of doing your course. There's so many different that you don't have to just do a video and content or words. There's lots of, you can do interactive videos nowadays with different platforms. And so you can, not just platforms, but course creation platform or software like Adobe Captivate and Storyline and Articulate 3, all of those. So there's fun ways to bring the learner into the learning. And that's, for me, it's always been about experiential learning. How do we give the learner an experience of learning? And that's what I'm really good at, is creating experience. And it's what I love to do. And what they can get in touch with me through my website, or I'm also going to be giving you a link to just a special just for this podcast, and you see it right across the top of it, Your World You, or something like that, You World Order?
The You World Order.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, there it is. Yeah. Of the new You World Order showcase. There we go. And anyways, I'll have the link there, and it's a free 30-minute jam session, because I don't have, you know, we'll just start talking, and we'll see where things go, and ideas will just come out and come through me for you. And that's just the way I work. I don't even start my day with a schedule. Everything is, what am I supposed to do today? What is the action I'm supposed to take today? And it all just somehow is getting someplace. But that's how we would work together too. So I'm transparent. As you can see, I'm very transparent. I've said things about myself that not a lot of people well, it's like, yeah, I've earned zero money on everything I've done so far. But, you know, it's I'm 100% transparent with you. I'm honest. I'm truthful. Like I said, I'm not always nice and flowery. if I see a point, I'm like, I come in and I target it and I'm like, boom. And it really depends on, it depends on where it's coming from too. If it's like a sharp message kind of thing from that, or if it depends on who it is as to what happens. But I will say, I guarantee you will have something actionable after you've talked with me that you could take if it resonated with you and you thought it was cool, that you could utilize. Totally everything I do and say, it's always for me first. And if you get something out of it, I know that sounds like selfish, but it's the way I have to work. But it's like, I won't know until we're together what it is, because everyone's different. Everyone's different.
I love that. And I can see how that would be the case. So what is the one thing you want to leave the audience with today?
Just be you. It's the most beautiful thing in the world. It really is.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining me, Jocelyn.
Thank you. This was a blast. I had a lot of fun. Thank you so much, Jill.
Me too.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order, or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.